And let's get our music going. And here we are. And we are Matt, wave hello. Wave hello. I'm looking out the side. Oh my goodness, YouTube is up. We're waiting for link. There we go. Let's play. Here we go. Let's dance. Look who's back. He's over there. He's over there.
Happy
Happy
birthday,
birthday.
it's your day.
Somebody's day.
We're celebrating you with this
Listen, the world
special
needs some
way
joy. We're going to
of
do it. We're
shine.
going to bring it. We're going to make people smile and be happy, even for 15 minutes. All right, we'll go
Celebrating
25.
you in style.
Ba, 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 da, ba, ba, da, 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 ba. All right, we're going to tell the Suno Orchestra, thank you very much. I told them to take a break. There were refreshments in the other room, guys and gals who are playing. I'm back. I'm Bonnie D, back with one of my really good friends, a colleague. He's a writer. He's prolific, and he's so good looking, and he's wearing black today, except he told me it's navy blue, midnight blue, but it looks like black. Matt C, welcome back. Matt Cost, C-O-S-T. Matt, just in case somebody's been hiding under a rock, I don't know where they are, where that rock is, and they don't know who you are. How many times have you been on my show in the past 5 years? A lot. Well, why don't you tell them briefly who you are and what you do, and then we'll get started. Matt, welcome.
As you said, I'm Matt Cost, and I am a writer and author. I have 18 published books out there with six different mystery series in the works, four currently running, two more on the books to come out soon. My latest was the first book of a new series, The Not So Merry Adventures of Max Creed, as Max Creed is an anti-hero looking to right the wrongs done to people by the ultra wealthy. And as well, my sixth book in my Clay Wolf Trap series called Glow Trap, which actually is
Ooh.
going to connect to the Max Creed book in some way, but you have to wait for book two to find that out. So that's what I do. I write.
You write, and your signature and your email, I love it, is right on, WRITEON exclamation point. I like that. Everybody should have a signature that works like that. Thank you very much, Matt. Wonderful to have you back. You were here a couple weeks ago and I liked you so much. I invited you back. Don't tell the others. Okay, so I'm going to open with my usual poem, but I've added a stanza and I think you're going to like it. And I wrote this one myself. So it's time to cheer, to toast, to woo. It's December 15th. Happy birthday. To you and you and you, with Bonnie D on her scarlet mic dishing glam and sass. I'm a sassy dame. With a vintage spike. I'm not the vintage, I'm just the spike. And look who's here with his velvet roar. It's Matt C, my encore guest co-host again. Encore du jour. There we go. We're naming names in the birthday game from Hollywood Heights to YouTube fame, plus wacky holidays and music history gold. Get ready, darlings. The fun is set to unfold. Now here comes the new part. December 15th is the 349th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar. It's marked very clear. 16 days till the New Year's ball makes its fall. Then 2025's over, and Happy New Year to all. I added that. I hope you like that. So grab your party hat and let the champagne pour. What? It's 10:20 a.m. here. I'm not ready. You ready for champagne? Don't even answer that. HB2U is lighting up December 15th with glam, with bam. I need sound effects for this and more. Okay, let's get started here. We're going to do events and music history. Anybody see if you remember any of these people? I do, some only because I read about them. Let's leave that alone. 1946, well, none of us were here then, but drummer Carmen, I'm going to say Appice, Appice of the band Vanilla Fudge, was born in Brooklyn. He did a lot of work with Rod Stewart. He co-wrote the hit Do You Think I'm Sexy? I really botched that one, but I will tell you, when I was taking drum lessons, Matt, one of the books it was suggested that I buy, a drummer book, was by Carmen Apice, and I have the book here somewhere. And it was all kinds of exercises for learning all kinds of drum riffs. So I'm celebrating his birthday, not in the birthday section of the show, but in the music history. So there you go. You've got the next one, Matt.
Well, I know Rod Stewart, but I'm not sure that I've ever heard of Vanilla Fudge. But maybe I'll have to give it a listen at some point.
Ice cream is always there in case, how do you think they named the ice cream? How do you think they named the bands? It must be ice cream. I'll have to do the history of ice cream one of these days. You've got the next one.
Well, Falling right in line with that is the Birdland Jazz Club in 1949 opened its doors for the first time, and it's named after Charlie Yardbird Parker.
Yes, yes.
So it opens in New York City and becomes a hotspot with Charlie Parker, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, and other luminaries performing there until it closed in 1965. During the 1950s, Birdland became a fashionable place for stars such as Frank Sinatra, Ava Gardner, Gary Cooper, Marlon Brando, Marilyn Monroe, Sugar Ray Robinson, Marlon Dietrich, Joe Louis, and Judy Garland were all regulars there during the 50s. So quite the spot, I imagine. Uh,
Somebody did their homework. Keep going. I love it. Go ahead.
It closed in 1965, but it's going to open for one night in 1979. That must have been a blowout party because then it closes down again until it opens up in 1986 in a new location. So that's the history of the Birdland Jazz Club.
Thank you. And I'll give you a little more history. I was working as a assistant editor, they called me, a reporter for the Great Neck Record in Great Neck, Long Island, New York in 1998. Just for a year, I was between corporate jobs and I lived in Great Neck. And somebody said to me, hey, the person who was the assistant editor was going to go do something else that I wanted. And I said yes. I was sending some articles to them. So one of my assignments Matt, was to talk to a man named Bill Gottlieb, and I had no idea who he was. Bill Gottlieb turns out to be one of the most famous jazz photographers ever. And if you've ever seen the Billie Holiday stamp, the U.S. postage stamp, he photographed that. And Bill Gottlieb was a photographer for a major newspaper way back in the day, but he was a reporter and they didn't have money to hire a photographer for him. So they said, well, just get yourself a camera. So he found himself a camera and he started taking pictures. He became world famous and he toured and his photos toured. He was the preeminent jazz star photographer. I met Bill Gottlieb, and the article I wrote on his birthday was Happy Birthday, Bill Gottlieb, and all that jazz. And the reason I'm telling you this is he did an annual jazz calendar, Matt, and I have a couple of them. And each month was featuring a different star, and Charlie Yardbird Parker was one of those stars. Well, Bill Gottlieb wanted to thank me for the article, so he invited me to dinner at the Village Gate in the Village, downtown New York. And he also took me to the photography lab that did the touch-ups on his photos. You know what a thrill that was to go and actually see the photos. This was not done on digital in those days, not at all. And then he took me to dinner at the Village Gate, and in the lobby were the almost life-size pictures of the people he had photographed for the stamps, including Billie Holiday, framed pictures that were a couple of feet tall in the lobby of the Village Gate, and we saw a show, and it was just lovely, just absolutely lovely. So that's my history. So I have some calendars with months dedicated, and apparently some U.S. judges, there's a famous judge, I don't remember the name, who was scheduling a trial for a court appearance. You ready for this, Matt? And he said, I have to check my jazz calendar. And he opened up, he said, we can do it in the month of Charlie Parker. And he referred to the calendar and he had on his desk. And they were using Bill Gottlieb. Bill Gottlieb passed away several years ago, but it was such a thrill. I got to meet some really famous people who lived in Great Neck at the time and interview them. And that was a lot of fun. He also did work for, I think, Highlights magazine for children, the ones you usually found in the doctor's office and other places like that. So interesting man. So let's go on. Enough about that. That's what Birdland conjured up for me. And thank you for your research. 1955, Johnny Cash. I think you have something to say about this one too. Released his second single, The Folsom Prison Blues. We're going to look at Matt's shirt in a second. It gained popularity in 1968, which was, there we go, 13 years later, when he released a live version recorded at the prison called Live from Folsom Prison. So what do you know about that, Matt? What are we looking at on that shirt? Lean back a little. We need.
Well, not so much that I knew too much about it, but I did, for the occasion, wear my Murphy's Soul Food Cafe t-shirt, which is referring to the Blues Brothers movie. in which they sing at Folsom Prison to end the show, much like Johnny Cash did. So, and their version was mighty good. It was right up there with Johnny Cash's, I think.
Mighty good. I haven't heard the word mighty in a long time. I like that. Mighty good. Okay, okay. We're all choked up. I got to get water. You've got the next one. What do you got?
So we're going to move on to 1957 when band leader Mitch Miller, known for his sing-along hits, and entertainer Sammy Davis Jr. on a syndicated radio talk show hosted by Davis publicly denounced rock and roll.
What?
Somebody has
It's
guess
not
somebody should have told
possible.
Elvis that because rock and roll looks like it's around to stay, and they're denouncing it did not do much good. And MGM label president Arnold Maxim
I had to
disagrees,
do that. Yes.
stating that he sees rock as a lasting trend.
There you go. I played the wah wah trombone. I overrode you a little bit, but the
Oh,
idea that Sammy Davis Jr. would say no, rock and roll's not here to, it doesn't even compute, but it's in the history book. So there. And speaking of a different kind of rock, in 1958, the following year, Domenico D'Amunio sang Volare. Oh, I think I got that on key. It was Billboard's best-selling single of 1958. Do you know that song? Dil nil blue, de pinto de blue. Remember that, man?
I have heard it, but I don't
All
think I
right,
could
don't
sing
go
any of
there.
the lyrics.
Don't go there. Well, it was a classic back in the day. I heard it through my mother's womb. I heard Volare, oh. And you've got the next one. We're jumping ahead a decade. Go.
Okay, well, let's go up to 1967, which is actually the year of my birth.
Happy birthday. What's your birthday, by the way? What day is your birthday?
January 17th.
Oh, I'm booking you for coming back on this show on your birthday. Would you like to? I don't know
Yeah,
what day,
that'd be fun.
I don't know what
Yeah,
day of the week it is. We'll get you on. Doesn't matter.
yeah,
Go ahead.
we'll take a look.
Okay.
In 1967, The Who releases their third album, The Who Sells Out. It includes fake radio jingles and commercials between songs, including one for the deodorant Odor No. And the title of this album, The Who Sells Out, is based on the fact that they were making fun of themselves for having sold out because at the time they were actually doing a lot of jingles for different products and commercials for different products and supplying the soundtrack to these things for a paycheck because they hadn't made their millions yet. Um, Oder No threatened to sue them because they used, references to them in between songs as well as jingles about them in between songs on this album. Um, so that was kind of an interesting little tidbit, I
I
thought.
didn't know that. Now, was it Odor? No, I had it written as Odor Ono. That's what I got in my lookup. So interesting. There really was a company. There really was a product called Odor No or Odor Ono.
Yeah. Oh, I
Interesting.
think it's Oder Oh No. You're right, but yeah.
Isn't that fascinating? I had no idea. Who knew? Sorry, I had to do that. Let's jump ahead another 7 years to 1974. Young Frankenstein. What? Opened in theaters. Here's the backstory, though. And by the way, one of the first pieces I played on the drums was Dream On by Aerosmith. And that's what I'm going to tell you about a little bit here. Members of the band Aerosmith were around when Young Frankenstein opened in theaters. They were recording their album, Toys in the Attic. They took a break and they went to see the movie. They thought it was hysterical. They're laughing when Igor, played by Marty Feldman, tells Dr. Frankenstein, played by the late great Gene Wilder, to walk this way. The doctor imitates Igor's walk. Okay, the band thought that was just a hoot and a howl, and they went back to their session and they said, gee, we have a song we needed a title for. I think we'll call it Walk This Way. And that was that story. What do you think of that? Cool beans?
I I would say that that's very cool beans, and it is one of the funniest movies of all time, certainly. So I'm right there with Aerosmith and the Walk This Way tune and jingle that goes along with that. So good
Good.
fun.
Good. And you were 7 years old when that movie came out.
I it had a lot of legs. I remember watching it many times in college.
Okay.
group around a TV and a VCR in the late 80s and probably drinking a cocktail or a beer and laughing at Young Frankenstein. I
Okay.
believe it even came to my college campus movie theater and we saw it there.
Really? Interesting. Interesting. You've got the next one. Who have we got? More
Well,
rock.
that ties right in with in 1979, Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 goes to #1 on the US single charts. But how that ties in is I did see Pink Floyd live while in college. So in
Really?
1987, they came to the Hartford, Connecticut Civic Center on their A Momentary Lapse of Reason tour. And, you know,
You're kidding.
no, I'm not at all. Pink
That was the name of the tour?
Yeah,
Momentary.
a momentary lapse of reason.
Oh, that's funny. Maybe Taylor Swift could take a beat or two from that kind of a tour name rather than Eras and Showgirl and all of that. A momentary lapse. Very interesting. I'm going to go the same year, the same day. Well, my goodness gracious. The Buggles song, Video Killed the Radio Star. It didn't kill me yet. It just helped me get on video. Reaches at U.S. chart peak. That's a tongue twister of number 40, but it went to #1 in the UK in September. Okay, so a little bit before this. On August 1st, 1981, 2 years later, it becomes the first music video played on MTV. Record stores in the area where people had a lot of cable, they were already using cable. This is 1981, kids, were baffled. People showed up and said, I want the song. I want to buy the record. And they said, What are you talking about? Well, I saw it on MTV. What's MTV? So eventually they got a hold of the record. Interesting story on history, right?
Absolutely. How many years do you think MTV was around before it finally became, I guess it might still be out there, but it's pretty obsolete.
Yeah, yeah, but it was one of those things that people were looking at music videos. I was not a fan of music videos. Do you want to know why?
Absolutely.
Thank you. You're very polite for asking. Okay, Matt, since you asked and it's really important for you to know, I'll tell you because when I was growing up in the era of rock and roll, I didn't say early, I didn't say mid, I didn't say late, rock and I said it again. In the era of rock and roll, I had an idea. Sometimes I saw the singers on American Bandstand or other TV shows where they were performing, but I had an idea when I heard a record of who the characters were if it was a story about something, usually a story of something falling in love or breaking down somewhere of a car or whatever. There was always something. I had an idea of who the people were, what they looked like, how they talked, and how they thought because of the story in the record. Then music videos came along and they told me this is what the boy looks like, this is what the girl looks like, this is what the car looked like, this is what the party looked like, this is what they were wearing, this was their hat, this was their clothing. I didn't want them to tell me how to interpret the story. I had it in my mind what it was about and what it looked like. And all of a sudden, music videos were telling me, okay, these are the people. This is who we think we want you to believe we're singing about.
This
And
is why, Bonnie, that the book is always better than the movie.
yes, absolutely. You know what? You just made a great point, an absolutely great point. Yes, because you're not telling us who they are and changing our minds. Our imagination is not allowed to spin. So I've made my philosophical appeal about music videos. Okay, you got the next one. Rescue me, Matt.
Okay, well, we're going to jump all the way up to 2007
What?
when, after 717 performances, Celine Dion wraps
Careful
up.
there.
Celine. Well, let's go with Celine Dion wraps up her A New Day residency in Las Vegas, which started in 2003. The show is supposed to be only 3 years long, but ran for five, with a gross income of $385 million. It sets a residency record and leads to residencies by Britney Spears, Elton John, Adele, and U2. That's a pretty crosses a lot of spectrum, those four right there. It
It's
had a
certainly.
groundbreaking, highly theatrical show with dancers and Circus du Soleil influences. Although I've never seen Celine at that time, I did go to Las Vegas and I did go to Circus du Soleil. So I was close to getting there, I guess.
There you certainly were, but by today's standards, with the amount I did last week on one of these shows, the gross of the latest tours by Beyonce, who hit a new record, and then Taylor Swift, I think hers was over $1 billion in concert income from her one of her tours, and nothing to do with the residency, but the money has just exploded. So let's go to 14, I'm sorry, 7 years later to 2014. Little Big Town, the country band, releases a song, a ballad about jealousy. Oh no, how many songs were driven by jealousy ballads? I can't tell you. In 6/8 time, it was important for the history that it be in 6/8 time, and the title was Girl Crush. The unusual song, I assume that was unusual because of the 6/8 time, goes to #1 on the country chart, and it wins CMA Country Music Awards, Single of the Year, and Song of the Year awards. Congratulations to Little Big Town. Do you know the band, Little Big Town?
I do know the band Little Big Town, and I do enjoy them
I
actually.
do too. They're a very interesting group, aren't they? The two girls and the two guys, right?
Absolutely. And you mentioned Taylor Swift, and I think she's made a few $1 billion off writing songs about jealousy and heartache and
Yep.
vengeance, perhaps. So
Yes,
it
yes.
is a good topic, a
And by the way,
mind-blowing
her
topic.
birthday, I think her birthday was Saturday because I did a profile on her too. So yes, she moved to Nashville with her family when she was 14 and started writing those heartbreak songs, and the rest is herstory, not
A
history.
history,
Herstory. There we
absolutely.
go. Let's move to our birthdays, celebrity birthdays. We got a couple here. Some of you will recognize these names, some of you won't, but we're going to tell you anyway. I'm going to celebrate the actor Adam Brody. He's 46 today. He played Seth Cohen on the TV show The OC. Some of you may remember that. Well, he's young, and you probably are young too, will remember it. He appeared in the films Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Thank You for Smoking, duh, and In the Land of Women. That was a movie title. His latest role, and the one I know him for, is playing Rabbi Noah Ruklov in the Netflix romantic comedy Nobody Wants Us with Kristen Bell and Justine Lupe and Tova Felchu. I went to college with Tova. She used to be Terry. She's Tova now, and great actress. So I watched that show. I think it just did season 2 or 3. Pre-fame, Adam Brody grew up in suburban San Diego. He didn't do well in school, Matt. He wasn't a good student. He actually said, I got poor grades. What did he do? Quote, I pretty much lived at the beach. He was a surfer. He went to community college for 1 year, dropped out at 19, and said, I'm going to go to Hollywood and become an actor. He did. He's also a musician and a writer, and he writes screenplays and songs in his spare time. How could an actor who's doing a full-time TV show anyway have a spare time? Anyway, former surfer, community college dropout, and he said, I'm going to be an actor, and here he is. And I think he's pretty good. So happy birthday, Adam Brody, all of 46 today, very, very young. You've got the next birthday. This is a big one, Matt. I gave you this one because he is huge in Hollywood and everywhere. Go.
Well, to answer your question,
Yes.
the next person also wrote songs and sang songs in his spare time from his television show. So we're on to Don Johnson,
Oh,
76 today.
what?
Actor, singer, producer, director, and songwriter, best known for starring as Detective James Sonny Crockett in the
Oh
1980s
my.
TV show Miami Vice, and
Yes.
playing the title character in the 1990 series Nash Bridges.
Hmm.
In 2019, he began starring in HBO's Watchmen. He appeared in the films A Boy and His Dog, Tin Cup, Machete, Django Unchained in 2012, and Knives Out in 2019. As a singer, he released the albums Heartbeat, 1986, and Let It Roll, 1989. His cover version of Heartbeat peaked at #5 on the Billboard Hot 100. In Miami Vice, he lived on a houseboat with an alligator and was a fancy dresser. So I'm sure people of my age probably remember Don Johnson, but what they might not know is he was about the 12th choice for the role of Sonny Crockett.
Really?
They asked Nick Nolte, Jeff Bridges, and Mickey Rourke, amongst others, before him, who all
No.
turned the role down.
Big mistake. Big mistake. Nick Nolte as Sonny Crockett. That would have been interesting, wouldn't it? And Jeff Bridges. Wow. Very, very interesting. And by the way, Don Johnson was married to Melanie Griffith, and I think they have a famous daughter. And he's been in and out of the news all these years, but he certainly started this trend of the very well-dressed detective. And I watch a lot of French and Italian detective shows. I've told you that before. And some of the male detectives actually show up in a tie and jacket and a suit at all of the calls, all of the murder charges, investigations. And I'm always surprised that, and others just show up in a hoodie or in a pair of jeans. So I
Well, in
don't
the
know.
1980s, Don Johnson certainly set a fashion trend for America of being flashy dressers in, white linen suits and things like that. But, truth be told, I don't know if that would have ever happened if Nick Nolte, Jeff Bridges, or Mickey Rourke
That's
had gotten the
exactly
role.
Exactly right. You're exactly right. Looking back with the lens of was the rear view mirror. There we go. Thank you very much. And I'm going to move on. We're celebrating the birthday of Michelle Dockery. You may not know the name, but you might remember her as Lady Mary Crawley on Downton Abbey from 2010 to 2015. She's a singer-songwriter. I didn't know that. She's an English actress. She starred in Downton Abbey, very, very strong role, and she reprised the role in the films 2019's Downton Abbey, 2022's Downton Abbey: A New Era, and 2025's Downton Abbey: The Grand Finale. She also played Princess Myagkaya in the 2012 film Anna Karenina, based on a famous novel. She also appeared in the action thriller film Nonstop with, oh my goodness, this is big time. Her co-stars were Liam Neeson, Julianne Moore, and Lupita Nyong'o. Wow, in 2014. As a trained singer, I didn't know this, Michelle Dockery sang at the 50th anniversary of Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club in London, and she has sung with Sadie and the Hotheads, not exactly a top 10 band as far as we know. However, the band was formed by the woman who played her mother on Downton Abbey, the actress Elizabeth McGovern. I didn't know she was a bandmate either. Michelle Dockery has appeared in more than a dozen films, 25 TV shows, 11 stage roles, and received more than 20 awards for her acting. And I will tell you, I think she starred in, I know she starred in, but I think the name of the show, I didn't put it in here, was Good Behavior. And she was a con woman. And in the promo for the show, Matt, they showed her in different wigs, and she showed up with blonde, straight hair, and she showed up with a bouncy redhead wig, and she was able to go in and out of scenes and steal things from people dressed as and pretending to be other people. And I think it was called Good Behavior. And I didn't watch too much of it, but she was in it, and it was a shock to see her play that kind of a cool, saucy dame, if I can say that, after the former Lady Mary Crawley on Downton Abbey. So, yeah, interesting how they get out of their main genre once in a while, and I think that's a surprise for actors to see them getting out of that niche role. What do you think? You agree?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of variety there. And what's sort of funny is we started talking about TV stars who were singers, and it sounds like she's one more, yet one more
Yes.
that combines, acting with singing. So I guess maybe that's a thing. Maybe they
It,
all do it.
and maybe we need to get the singers to go become TV stars too. I don't know what role is waiting for Taylor Swift somewhere, but we'll have to find out. Yes, I
I'm
wish you.
sure. Well, many of them have. Oprah's done it, right? Or a few of them.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. You've got a major star in memoriam today. I was sad that he left us so many years ago, but he was just wonderful, iconic. Why don't you tell us?
Well, I guess 7 years ago on this day, Tim Conway died at the age of 85. We all know Tim Conway as an actor, comedian, writer, and director for his physical comedy, which involves a lot of falling down and possibly hurting oneself at points to get a laugh. At one point, I think he had a very slow fall down the stairs that went on and on and on that just broke the entire cast up in laughing. His ability to depart from scripts with humorous ad libs and gestures, causing actors in the skits to break character with laughter. And I know it's always fun, especially on Saturday Night Live when they get each other laughing.
Yep.
That can be as funny as
Sorry, I had to do that. Yes, go ahead. Yes.
He hosted the Tim Conway Show Comedy Hour in 1970 and
Oh,
the Tim Conway Show in 1980 to 1981. But in between, he starred from 1975 to 1976 on the Carol Burnett Show. After frequent guest turns in the first 8 seasons, so he became a regular on the show. And I'd have to say that my wife was an absolute huge Carol Burnett fan. She wanted to be Carol Burnett. So, if given the chance, she'd have gone all Kathy Bates on Carol Burnett and locked her up just to be with her, from the movie Misery. um, but back to Tim Conway. Two of
yes.
his most memorable Two of his most memorable characters were the oldest man, sometimes known as Dwayne Toddleberry, whose shaggy white hair, slow speech, and shuffling gait ran counter to the energy levels needed in his occupation. Some of these occupations, he switched for every show, would be a clockmaker, a butcher, a shoe store salesman, even a slave on a galley ship. And he'd just sort of shuffle his way along. Most often, the character plays opposite straight man Harvey Korman, who
Mhm.
reacts with frustration and anger to the old man's lingering pace and unhelpful charades. Or another character was Mr. Tudball, a businessman whose intentions of running an organized office were sunk by the bored, indifferent secretary, Mrs. Wiggins, played by Carol Burnett.
Iconic.
Although the character was thought to be Swedish, Conway used a Romanian accent learned from his mother. Tudball was known for his slow burn and eventual unraveling of patience, which, combined with Conway's ad libs and physical comedy, frequently caused his co stars to break character with laughter.
Do you remember he used to call her Mrs. O'Wiggins? Remember that? Mrs. O'Wiggins, and that's where the accent came in. It was just wonderful. I was a big fan of him, of the whole show, and Carol Burnett, of course, is just she's just like a rubber face. There's nothing she couldn't do, nobody she couldn't play. So happy birthday in memoriam to Tim Conway, born today in 1933. My goodness gracious, he lived to 85, but as my mom, excuse me, who lived to 100, would have said. Too young. He died too young. 85 was way too young. So let's go to some social media stars that I don't know anybody who's heard of, but maybe you out there in listening and viewing land, even though nobody's watching right now, but you'll see it. Everybody's in the on-demand mode today. Well, my goodness, we have a YouTube star. She is Antonio, even though I thought it would be Antonia. She's a she, but Antonio Garza. She's 23. She's here because she has more than 3.1 million views. Views, okay? Now, she's a fast rising YouTube sensation, Matt, who went viral with her beauty and makeup transformation videos. I should do some of those. She also, these are always multi platform stars. She has 1.7 million plus Instagram followers, and her first viral video was titled Ninth Grade Makeup Transformation. I'm sure you and I need to watch that, Matt. So, okay.
I just regularly watch things like that. That's great. I'd have to say, well, the next one that we're going to for the social media star is Katie Fang. She, age 20, has 6 million followers on TikTok. So I looked her up on TikTok. And, she guys posts get ready with me, videos and vlog style accounts of her daily life while she prepares for the day ahead. Piece of trivia. She had 33 million views for video about feeling upset as she's getting ready for her work shift at a retail store. Well, that's right up my alley. Make it 33 million and one because me watching somebody complain about having to go to work is something that would just excite me.
But Matt, in our era, yours and mine, and even though we're a couple of years apart, can you imagine if we made a video complaining, oh, I gotta go to work, I'm a cashier, or I'm an inventory stock person, or I'm the greeter at the front of this. Can you imagine 33 million people watching something like that? Can you even fathom?
No, I think my football coach and my father both would have said, rub some grass on it, son, and get back in there.
There you go. There you go. Happy birthday, Katie. I'm sure she pronounces it Fong and maybe not Fang, but it's spelled Fang. There we go. On TikTok, also, we have another one who's 27, very old. Honeybee, that's me. That's her name on social. She has 3.7 million plus views. What does she post, Matt? I know you're just dying to know. She posts trending dance videos and comedy and lip sync. You know, what happened to Milli Vanilli and the other groups and who was it? Ashley uh, Spears, a couple of other stars who dared to lip sync, and they were vilified for it. And now we have lip syncers syncing the lips on TikTok and on YouTube and on Instagram, and they have millions of followers. She happens to be married to a fellow TikTok star, so there is some socialization there. It's really Nando. So Honeybee, that's me, with just the letter B. Honeybee, that's me, is married to It's Really Nando. Are you feeling better now, Matt?
Katie Fang or Fong actually has quite a few TikTok videos that look like lip syncing, and I think it's intentionally poor lip syncing. It doesn't really match the words in the songs, and so I don't know if it's supposed to be comedic or not, but that seems to be a thing for her as well. So.
Oh dear. Oh dear. One more.
Okay, let's go on to Daryl Ann Denner for Instagram. She, age 35, has 2.1 million subscriber. She's an influencer who posts her family fashion and lifestyle content.
Oh,
Former high school chemistry teacher, making me wonder if maybe they'll make a movie about her like they did with Walter White. She is also the founder of clothing line called Nudes, Nuuds. So she does a little bit of it all. She's an influencer that has turned it into a name brand.
now I knew in my research I found out that she had that clothing line and I didn't put it in there, but you went and dug it up. So yes, we could say it could be nudes. Okay, we don't know what that looks like, and I'm not shopping for that. But happy birthday to Daryl and Dinner, to Honeybee, that's me, to Katie Fong, and to Antonia Garza. All four women today. Usually they're men, but four women. So let me do the happy birthday. Let me see if we get a happy birthday applause here. Okay, let's get that. There we go. Okay, happy birthday to everybody. I don't think I have a specific happy birthday. I used to have a happy birthday something, but oh, you know what? Let me play this. Whoa, that's happy birthday if I ever heard it. You know what, Matt? That was a second entry by the Suno Orchestra for the theme of this show. I think we're going to go out with that one. What do you think? Is that cool?
Absolutely. It sounds
Yeah,
like
I
a
think
good
we'll
one to me.
use the jazz version. Okay, let's go to excuse me, wacky holidays. It's Monday morning. It's my Monday morning throat. We're going to go to, we have two holidays here. First up, I'm going to start this one. It's National Cupcake Day. And I did a lot of research on this. I want you to know because people might think, oh, it's a cupcake. It's a small cake. It's a little cup. Big deal. Well, it is a big deal. In 1796, we're talking a few years ago, Matt, cupcakes originated in the U.S. with the first recipe for, listen up, everybody, a light cake to bake in small cups. And it was mentioned in Amelia Simmons' cookbook, American Cookery, 1796. It was important enough for it to have a mention and be listed in the history books. So, Matt, it must have been a big deal for a little deal, right?
Absolutely. Um, yeah, I actually have a friend whose father made quite a killing making extra tiny cupcakes. So cupcakes are small to begin with, but he mistakenly ordered a bunch of small pans for his cupcake factory and decided to go ahead and do it. And they became very popular, and he ended up selling for millions to a larger business that
Wow.
because he had patented the right to tiny cupcakes.
Tiny, tiny cupcakes. Okay, tiny, teeny. So you've got the next one, 1828. What happened? Another cookbook? What's going on with cookbooks?
Well, let's
Go.
go back to 1828. The term cupcake first appeared in Eliza Leslie's cookbook, 75 recipes for pastries, cakes, and sweetmeats.
Ooh.
Early cupcakes were called number cakes, or because one, two, three, four cakes for their measurement-based recipes. 1 cup butter, 2 cups sugar, 3 cups flour, 4 eggs, plus milk and baking soda, easy for home bakers before modern baking tools. Cupcake derives from initially being baked in individually pottery cups.
There you go. I was intrigued by that recipe, the idea of number cakes. Very interesting. And when they say before modern baking tools, I'm assuming that the Pyrex people hadn't made the measuring cup with the lines on it. So it was probably a real cup, 1 cup of, yeah, 2 cups of sugar, 1 cup. They figured it out. In the early 20th century, from the late 19th, the invention of the muffin tin. Oh my goodness, I own a couple of those. Made it easier to bake multiple cakes at once, improving the uniformity. Like you pour 3/4 full, they all come out almost the same size, but it depends on how the top comes. Cupcakes gained popularity because they were convenient, they were portable, and they were often served at social gatherings. Easier than cutting a big cake. You just serve something to what, right? You give one and okay, and fewer calories and all that stuff. What happened in 1919, Matt? This is for you.
19, back with on the verge of prohibition and some the end of World War II. But on a positive note, Hostess cupcakes were first introduced by Taggart Bakery, later Hostess, as the chocolate cupcake with marshmallow filling, topped with chocolate ganache and distinctive white swirl icing, with a chocolate frosting, actually the ganache base, with vanilla icing decorations. Hostess later offered golden, strawberry, and orange icing options. They were sold as two for a nickel each.
Wow, I want to play a whistle. There we go. We got to, there we go. That homemaker was really, really excited about that. In 1950, DR, known as DOC Rice, revolutionized the Hostess cupcake by adding the white cream filling inspired by Twinkies, didn't know that, in its iconic white chocolate icing squiggle. I didn't know the squiggle was white chocolate. I just thought it was vanilla. Distinguish it from earlier versions and establishing the beloved snack cake we know today. Oh, and you've got some very psychological observations here, Matt. What happened in the mid 20th century? This is interesting.
We got the post World War II era, which is actually a time period that I'm writing about in Raleigh, North Carolina right now in the
Mm.
book series. The golden age of prepackaged cake mixes made home baking, including cupcakes, significantly easier for homemakers. Early mixes from the 1930s and 40s often used dehydrated ingredients.
No.
Well, after marketing research revealed that Bonnie and other women felt guilty and skeptical about using truly instant mixes, companies started requiring fresh eggs and oil to be added to the home baker. The brands Betty Crocker from 1947 and Pillsbury, first chocolate mix in 1948, marketed these heavily, making them a staple of American kitchens.
Now listen, I wasn't around in the mid 20th century, but I wanted you to know you were putting that one on me. I have trouble believing that American home bakers were saying, "Oh no, they put dehydrated milk and flour and eggs in this mix. I feel terrible because I'm disconnected from the recipe process and they're making my life easier and it's all fake." I can't believe they said that, but apparently they did market research, Matt, and women responded, "I don't feel right doing this. I don't want it all pre-put in the package. I don't want it all dried out, and I want to be part of the process. I want to do something." So now today, of any recipe you find, I buy Bisquick sometimes for pancakes and muffins, and I buy the Krusty's muffin mixes, very, very popular, by the way. I have to add oil and or water and or milk and 2 or 3 eggs to each mix. So that's part of the process. So you just don't take the mix out of the cabinet, out of the box, out of the cabinet. You have to have the other ingredients ready to go. So I wondered why, and I didn't know that. Very, very interesting. So that was the history of, well, thank you to Betty Crocker and Pillsbury. And I'm sure that women in the 30s and 40s, I can't believe that they were angry at the baking mixes for including all the stuff, but apparently they were. So we've got the next holiday, and this one is going to be led by you. So let's take a complete shift of direction here. And what have you got for us, Matt?
Well, we have National Cat Herders Day.
Woo!
From the 1980s, when Thomas and Ruth Roy are the copyrighted creators of the popular National Cat Herders Day, which went public in the US today. The concept of herding cats was first introduced in a Monty Python sketch from The Life of Brian in 1979. So in this sketch from The Life of Brian, three sheep herders are sitting around a fire talking about how beautiful the sheep are. And then they say, well, cats are pretty nice looking too, and the other says, can you imagine herding a whole bunch of cats? And, they have a discussion about this around the campfire. And that's kind of where herding cats got its origin, I believe. The National Cat Herders Day is an idiom that describes people who are trying to organize independent, easily distract individuals or projects, much like trying to herd cats. But the holiday has nothing to do with herding actual cats.
Except Monty Python.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That wasn't in my lookup. I'm hiring you to be my investigator here. In 1997, which was a couple years later, the day gained traction with management books. It became something that leaders wanted their people to know. It celebrated resilient individuals who were handling the impossible at work or at home. Warren G. Bennis published his leadership management book, Managing People is Like Herding Cats, 1997. Do you have a copy of that on your library shelf, Matt?
I do not. But, I have coached 5-year-old soccer, and that is much like herding cats.
Yes,
So
there
the
you
book might have been helpful for me at that point.
Okay, you're next.
In 1999, Gaelic Storm, an American Celtic band founded in Santa Monica, California, they were founded in 1996, published their second music album titled Herding Cats.
What else? And 1 year later, in 2000, during the Super Bowl, the EDS Technology Company's commercial must have cost them a pretty penny to do a ad on the Super Bowl, featured cowboys who were successfully herding cats. By the way, Ross Perot founded the company in 1962. EDS is Electronic Data Systems. It was a major IT outsourcing services company, and HP Hewlett-Packard bought it in 2008. That's an aside. The message was EDS served its customers as well as the cowboys in the commercial who were herding cats. They accomplished the seemingly impossible. And you're going to tell us how to celebrate the holiday before we close out today. Matt, what are we going to do?
You can always celebrate a holiday in any way you see fit, but here's a few options. You could host a recognition ceremony for the members of your team at work to celebrate their accomplishments and talk about how to tackle upcoming obstacles. Or on social media, you could spread the word about National Cat Herders Day with hashtags Cat Herders Day, hashtag herding cats, hashtag impossible task, hashtag office chaos, or now we know, hashtag Life of Brian, Monty Python. Or you could just give a thank you card to the cat herders in your life. So there are a few ideas of how to celebrate National Cat Herders Day.
By the way, are you a cat person?
No, I'm a dog person.
And I'm a dog person too. And on that note, we're going to see if we can go out with our new song. There's no words to this. We just go out a little jazz. Oh, rock it, baby. Thank you, Suno. This is runner-up to the theme song. I'm instituting that as the closing song, Matt, in your honor.
There you go.
Let's rock it. We actually had somebody watching on YouTube. We're up to 1 million, minus 999,999. Bonnie D saying, have a great day, everybody. The The world may be in chaos, the news may be a cacophony, but somehow find a reason to smile, and I hope we've given you one. Celebrate somebody's birthday, even if it's not yours. Some event, something in history that makes you smile. Find a reason to smile. That's the end of my lesson here. Let's get this going. Matt C., it's always a pleasure. Let's wait.